So from our perspective, to protect intellectual property rights is a key for innovation and for prosperity. So it should not be this way that it's like open source. If you invent, you need to protect your investment. Otherwise, you would have a loss of wealth, of growth, and also profits, and finally taxes. So it would be a loss for society if we do not protect property rights. We need a strong alliance of so-called good-willing people in favor of economic growth. And growth means, finally, if you have growth, you will have increase of taxation, of revenues, and so for that reason, normally each finance minister, each economy minister should support us with our aim to protect property rights.
I would just equal them to land property rights and other forms of property rights, and I would treat them equally, just as one of the basic human rights, individual rights. The same way a farmer fruit of work and talent is grain or whatever else, and the same way for a researcher, for a scholar, for a digital professionist, the discovery is not tangible, but yet it is as much important, and he deserves to have that right the same way that the farmer has grain.
If you protect and you honor and you acknowledge someone's intellectual property rights, they're able to monetize it. So it's maybe very much a business person's view, but it is also, yes, an intellectual view too. So if I'm making an investment, and it could be, my particular business is in software, if I'm not able to protect the software that I have, the procedures that I do, the applications that I create, and they are easily copied, it's a very big disincentive for me to obviously create and innovate unless I'm able to protect those intellectual property rights so I can monetize them through licensing.
From my point of view, unfortunately, over-regulations are leading to the shadow economy, and this is dissatisfy the customers, because trademarks are information, because they are guaranteeing the quality, and therefore it's important to know what are you buying, who is behind, and how long this or another products are in the market.
Yeah, intellectual property is another thing that hasn't really come onto the agenda too much in Great Britain. People don't seem to realise that there is this sort of big fundamental tension. It seems obvious to most people that if you have a tree in your back garden, you chop it down and turn it into a chair, that's yours. It seems again to most people, if you come up with a melody or a script or something like that, or a line of code or an algorithm or whatever it may be, that should be yours as well. But there are some people who disagree with that, of course, and again it will be in the interest of the states to kind of come and get involved and start meddling with that, and to try and either tax it or say that it doesn't belong to you because maybe your education was paid for by the state or whatever else it may be, and you just hear these incredibly spurious arguments used time and again, and sometimes we just fall for them because we assume that politicians mean well. Maybe they do mean well, or to start with at least, and maybe bureaucrats do mean well some of the time, but too often with things like intellectual property and anything else, it seems to be a measure of coercion over citizens, and that's the real infringement to our freedoms.
In some cases, the challenge with IP is capturing the IP that you already have, and in farming that IP in a profitable way. That's a legal question. I used to be a lawyer, and a lot of it is about the contracts you negotiate and the way you preserve your rights and the way you maintain your rights. So that is an important defensive step, if you like, to the profitability of your IP. I think there's a more exciting area as well in which you develop new IP using your brand, and that new IP is used to generate income. And that's a way in which you can greatly develop your arts-related business.
Intellectual property is actually a very interesting concept, because all the concepts of property rights derive from the idea that I have a physical good that I can protect. Intellectual property becomes ever more important, and therefore we also need to shift the idea what property actually is. Is it only ideas? Is it ideas and tangible goods? Or is it also something more than that? For me, also, ideas that you are able to note down, that you are able to harness in the end of the day, can be property and therefore need to be protected. Otherwise, where is the incentive to invest in intellectual ideas? Program source codes are not tangible. They can be copy and pasted. There is no rivalry in consumption, but there is still investment that needs to be made. Therefore, intellectual property needs to be protected. But we need different mechanisms than the old mechanisms of just policing property in order to secure investment and progress in that field.